And we are now live, Sean.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Just for information, I keep having some freezing of everyone else's pictures and images, so hopefully this will go smoothly tonight. To order here at 7:01. I see that all members are present. The minutes of our meeting held on May the 12th have been circulated for adoption. Do we see any errors or omissions? No. Only thing I saw was on page 4, just a typo. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph. Member Rao commented, second line, there would be no concern, not now concern, but it's a simple little typo.
Sean. Dave had caught that this morning as well, so we'll fix that.
I do read these things.
I appreciate that.
Hard to believe. All right, seeing no comments from any members, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as circulated or as adjusted. Member Rowell, seconded by Member Burton. All in favor? That is carried. So we have 7 items on the agenda. One of them is a double agenda, so just 6 different items. Is there any disclosure of a pecuniary interest from any member of committee? Seeing none. Our first application is minor variance file 21A14, property located at 2683 County Road 42. So Christine, if you could provide notice.
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 2683 County Road 42. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the agricultural zone interior side yard setback requirement of 7.5 meters to 2 meters, a total variance of 5.5 meters. The effect of the application is to allow for the construction of a detached accessory building, garage, on the subject lands.
Dogs are at the front door.
We did receive comment from the County of Simcoe today with regard to the application, which I did share with the applicant and committee members. So I will read the recommendation from the planning department. And we have added a second, we're requesting to add a second condition to that recommendation since receiving the comments from the county. The recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approve minor variance 21A14 pertaining to lands at 2683 County Road 42 and legally described as Part 11 Concession 2 and Reference Plan 51R22002 Parts 1 and 2, formerly Nottawasaga Township, now in the Township of Clearview, on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act and with the following conditions. That the interior side yard setback reduction to 2 meters applies to the construction of the detached accessory building only on the south side of the property. And 2, that the applicant meet the requirements of the County of Simcoe's letter dated June 9th, 2021. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Chubry, I see you're present. Do you have anything you would like to add to your application? You're on mute still. There you go.
There we go. Sorry, I'm not super good at Zoom yet. Thank you. This is my first Zoom meeting. I responded to the County of Simcoe's letter. It was the first time that I heard that there was an issue with my access off of County Road 42. We're the 3rd or 4th owner of this house. But I have made an effort to contact the County of Simcoe today to put in a permit to have that opening granted and proper. As far as their second recommendation of the setback requirement for 15 meters or 15 meters off of the main road at County Road 42 off that property line, we are going to be within that variance. So that's not an issue for me. So I made the call today. I'm just waiting for someone to call me back, but it was the first I've heard of it today.
And you feel that making that application isn't onerous for you?
I think that it's fairly, mundane, actually. I mean, it's legal it's legal non-complying, but I'll put in that permit to make it all perfect, because that's just, we want everything down here to be proper. So that's not a problem.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any members of committee have any questions, either of staff or the applicant? We'll start with Member Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Christine, could you just outline what that letter said? I'm sorry, I did not get a chance to read it.
Absolutely.
I was running around. So you, and being a county councillor, I kind of understand sort of what some of these letters mean. So if you could clarify that.
Yeah, absolutely. It says, thank you for circulating the above noted application to the County of Simcoe for review. The County of Simcoe has no objection to the approval of the application, providing the following conditions are included. 1, if the applicant cannot meet the County of Simcoe setback of 15 meters from the County Road 42, the applicant shall apply to the County of Simcoe for a setback variance. At this time, the County of Simcoe has no record of an entrance permit being issued for the existing entrance onto County Road 42. If the owner cannot produce a valid permit, the entrance would be considered legal non-conforming. The county would request that the owner applies to the County of Simcoe for a residential entrance permit in the interest of updating the status of the entrance. And that's their comment.
I totally understand what it said. So, okay. If I can just make a comment. So to the applicant. So I sit on county council. I'm a county councillor, as you probably know. So, I mean, often what that means, and this has happened in the past where there was never an entrance permit granted at one time. So you're going to have to apply for that. So you understand that condition is part of the condition of granting this. You understand?
100%. Yeah, I have no issue getting the permit. I have no issue getting that done. As part of the conditions for the variance, not a problem.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other members have any questions? Chuck, Dan, no? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion then from committee. From Chuck to support the staff recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Dave? Any further comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, all in favor of the staff recommendation? Mr. Burton, yes. Excellent. So the Committee of Adjustments of the Township of Clearview hereby approve minor variance 21A14 pertaining to lands at 2683 County Road 42, subject to the 2 conditions. There is a 20-day appeal period, and Christine will work with you following that appeal period. Thank you very much, and we will move on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our second file for this evening and is the reading. Oh yes, there's Jessica. Very good. I see you. You're here. So minor variance file 21A15, property concerning 2581 Fairgrounds Road South. Christine, notice.
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 2581 Fairgrounds Road South. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment to allow for an expansion of a legal non-conforming building, dwelling, and residential use. The application proposes a 130 square meter second-story addition to an existing dwelling and the construction of 2 second-story decks attached to the east and south side of the existing dwelling, totaling 75.4 square meters. The effect of the application is to allow for the construction of a second-story addition and 2 second-story decks to an existing dwelling on the subject lands. We did receive 2 letters of objection, and we also received 4 letters of support for the application, which I circulated to the applicants and to committee members. And I have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 21A15 pertaining to lands located at 2581 Fairgrounds Road South on the basis that it is in compliance with Section 45(2) of the Planning Act, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant successfully obtain all approvals and/or permits as required by the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and 2, that all decks shall encroach a maximum of 0.75 meters into any interior side yard. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Now, the staff member that wrote the report, Ainley, would like to make a slight adjustment for wordsmithing and clarity on condition number 2.
Correct.
Nick?
Yeah, so having reviewed the reports more recently, I felt that the updated wording of condition number 2 specifically would be helpful, just to ensure that it was absolutely clear what the condition was required for. So as it's currently written, the condition requires that all decks shall encroach a maximum of 0.75 meters into any interior side yard. I am requesting that the condition be updated to the following: that all decks shall maintain a minimum interior side yard setback of 0.75 meters. So the intent is the same. It basically means that the deck has to be set back no more, or has to be set back a minimum of 0.75 meters from any interior side yard. I just want to ensure that it was absolutely clear, having read through it a second time based on my initial my initial writing of it.
So in layman terms, it does not change the intent nor the maximum extension of the deck towards the lot line, correct?
No, the intent would be exactly the same.
All right, thank you. So I see all right, Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would that not call upon us to make an amendment to the recommendation, and we should pass the amendment and before we approve it?
And that we will do once we hear from the applicant. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep. So Ms. Ridding, am I saying that properly? Do you have anything to add to the correspondence or the application as you understand it?
We had circulated a letter to Christine to share with the committee, just outlining our goals for the renovation and that we would stay within the conditions outlined in the recommendations. So hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. It addresses some of the concerns on the property and our intent and how we actually believe that the changes that we're recommending will improve the current dwelling. So we provided that in writing, and if you have any other questions for us, we'd be happy to answer that.
Thank you. I can confirm that members of committee did receive your correspondence as part of our package. So thank you for those items of clarification. Any members of committee have questions? Dave?
First and foremost, I read your letter that you sent through Christine to us. I thought it was extremely well done. It was very concise. I think the details that were provided were certainly helped the application along. And I know that you spent a fair amount of time in your letter detailing the improvements to the septic system, and that was I think that was certainly very beneficial. So just kudos to you for forwarding that along. The second thing is a minor point, but Nick, you had mentioned in your report that this actually is an intermittent stream or creek. And while that may seem like a small detail, it's not. Intermittent streams are very important, but they're only important at certain times of the year or during certain events. Snow melt in the springtime, and certainly if we get the flash flood, then intermittent streams are very important. But they also allow some more flexibility when they're actually dry. And so I think that that's a very important word. And I would just pass along to Nick and Rosalind, if she's here, that when you come across in the future that it's an intermittent stream, very, very valuable to put in your reports. So again, my kudos to you, Nick. Well-written report. And as I say, I think that's an important piece of information to know. That's it, Mr. Chair. Just two compliments really to both our staff, Nick, and to Jessica in her response to us.
Thank you so much.
Any other members of committee have any questions or questions of concerns or clarity? Seeing none. So our first motion will be to accept the change of wording for condition 2, to change it to that all text shall maintain a minimum side yard setback of 0.75 meters. Do I have a motion to approve that new wording? Member Burton, seconded by Chuck. All in favor? That is carried. So now do I have a motion for the amended recommendation? By Chuck and seconded by Dave. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'd call for the vote then. All in favor? So that is carried. So the Committee of Adjustment Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 21A15 pertaining to lots located at 2581 Fairgrounds Road South. So there is a 20-day appeal period, and you can communicate with Christine and then move forward with the building department and your permits.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Our third file this evening, and I see Marie Leroux, the agent for the applicant, is on the line here. So minor variance file 21A16, property located at 203 Sutherland Street South in Stayner. Christine.
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 203 Sutherland Street South. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the residential low density zone for the following. 1, the maximum gross floor area of all accessory buildings requirement of 64 square meters to 104 square meters. And 2, the maximum height of accessory buildings requirement of 4.5 meters to 6.22 meters. The effect of the application is to allow for the reconstruction of a detached accessory building garage on the subject lands. We did not receive any comments regarding the application. I do have a recommendation from the planning department. Be it resolved that staff recommends that Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby not approve the minor variance as applied for file 21A16 pertaining to lands at 203 Sutherland Street, South Stayner, and legally described as part of Lot 4, Plan 103 Quebec Street, reference Plan 51R13904, Part 2, formerly Village of Stayner, now in the Township of Clearview, on the basis that it does not meet the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act. However, staff could support the following variances relating to file 21A16. 1, maximum gross floor area of all accessory buildings requirement of 64 square meters to 73.7 square meters on the main floor and 12.8 square meters on the second level, a total of 86.5 square meters. And 2, maximum height of accessory buildings requirement of 4.5 meters to 6.22 meters, provided that the following conditions are met. No windows are to be located on the western side of the building, and the space in the upper floor of the accessory building is only to be used for storage. And that is all I have. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Christine. So I would remind members that as we get into some of these applications, if we don't have enough information or you feel that you want staff and the applicant to go back and work together outside of this to bring back something revised, we can defer and we can postpone for further information, just as a reminder. So, Marie, I'll open the floor to you first, and I'll ask for Rosalind to make comment as well. Now, you circulated a PowerPoint presentation or planning justification audio visuals to us.
Yeah.
Are you going to, do you want to go through that now, or what's your
Yeah,
plan?
I would appreciate being able to just speak over and just kind of give a bit of background and what have you.
Sure, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I am the agent for Joe and Sherry Schaap. I'm a planner with Mountain Ridge Custom Homes. We are representing the owners for their minor variance application and the reconstruction of their garage. Schaaps purchased the property in 1988, and the dwelling and garage were built in 1986. Back then, there was no development to the west or to the south, and Quebec Street was not open. Over the past few years, Quebec Street has been constructed, as well as the lands to the west and the south are being developed. The ground elevation for Quebec Street and the development lands has been raised by 1.7 meters to 2 meters in height above the Schaaps lot's grade. Schaaps have a large in-town lot with a large two-story garage, as well as the one-story garage that fronts on Quebec Street, a large in-ground pool, and the rear yard being fenced. With the new development to the west being raised, this allows the owners in that house to actually look over their fence and their garage and actually see into their backyard. So the Schaaps feel like they've lost a lot of their privacy. And so with the garage needing to be repaired, originally they thought maybe we should try to see if we could do a two-story garage, and then that way they could regain some of their privacy. So we made a proposal to the township, and they were advised that a two-story garage was not something that could be supported. However, a minor increase with the footprint would probably be something that, could come forward as a minor variance. So, and with the fact that they needed the extra space because the existing house doesn't have basement or an attached garage, they were hoping to have the garage be for the garage storage as well as a bit of a rec room. So the Schaaps redesigned the garage to have a loft with a height of 6.22 meters. The existing garage is 24 by 30. The proposed garage is 22 by 36. So it's actually narrower than the existing garage that is there. And it's being increased by the footprint by 72 square feet. So it isn't too much more than the footprint that's actually there. The existing garage is 1 meter from the rear yard setback, and the proposal is to make it comply with the rear yard setback of 1.2 meters. And then the garage is well set in from Quebec Street by 7.7 meters. And because the lot is so wide, they're able to have a 7.2 meter north lot line setback. So it really is in the center of the lot behind the two-story dwelling. The garage itself only covers 6% of the lot. Total lot coverage actually permitted under that zone is 45%. And with the garage and everything else, the total lot coverage will be 24%. So it's actually almost half of what's actually permitted in the zoning. The garage will have hydro, but there's no kitchen or washrooms proposed. The garage is less in size and height than the dwelling. The dwelling is 290 square meters, and the proposed garage gross floor area will be 101.3 square meters. The height of the dwelling is 7.2, and the proposed garage will be 6.2. So it is less than the dwelling. The lot is 1,170 square meters, where the residential zone on the property being developed to the west and the south, its minimum lot area is actually 400 square meters. So this lot is actually 3 times the size of those other lots that are to the south and zoned RS3. This lot, the ground elevation is actually 1.7 meters lower than the finished grade of the lot that's vacant to the west. Once it's finished, it'll be 1.7 meters higher in grade, which is the height that's being asked to be added to the garage, and which is 5.5 feet. Other residential zones that have larger minimum lot areas, such as the Hamlet residential zone, permits accessory buildings to have a maximum gross floor area of 100 square meters and a height of 6 meters. So it's very similar to what's proposed. And although the Hamlet residential lots are even larger, half of their size is based on because they need a private septic system. So, but it's just a comparison. So the larger the lot, the zoning usually allows for a larger accessory building. The surrounding uses to the west are 1 to 2 story high dwellings. And to the north, there's some 2-story dwellings, as well as an old barn that's 2 stories. And then the house directly to the west is fronting right up at Sutherland Street. So the garage is quite a distance from it. And then to the south of the garage is actually the storm water facility. And then to the east is residential development as well. So in our opinion, the garage will meet the 4 tests for a minor variance. The variants are minor in nature since the ground floor area is being increased only by 6.6 square meters of what exists and 9.6 meters from what is permitted. The gross floor area is increased, but that's mainly due to because of the loft area. So the total will be 101.3 square meters total gross floor area, which is similar to what an accessory garage would be permitted on another large lot zone. The increase in height, being the request is 1.7 meters, which is the same variance that the actual grade of the lot is to what the finished grade is going to be on the lot to the west, makes it minor because it really will only seem like 1 story on that lot that's adjacent to it. The increase in height, 6.22 meters, is similar to the Hamlet residential zones, allows the height of an accessory building to be 6 meters. And there would not appear to be any impacts to surrounding uses. And the garage is going to be set back in from Quebec Street, that it'll be in line with the other dwellings going down Quebec Street. And I think if you were driving up or down Quebec Street, I don't think it would really stand out because it's set so far back. In relation to the lot size, the building is obviously minor as it only covers 6% of the lot. With respect to the garage being desirable or appropriate, given the large size of the lot, it is subordinate in size, and when it is built, it will be subordinate and incidental to the dwelling. The west side of the first floor was supposed to be all roof. And so the residents in the new house next door, it will appear like a single story garage. The variance meets the test of the official plan because residential uses are permitted. And the minor variance meets the intent of the zoning bylaw since the intent is to set standards that are reflective to the size of the lot. So the larger the lot, the larger the building. The lot is zoned RS2. The minimum lot area is 750 square meters with 18.5 meters of frontage, where this lot actually has 1,176 and 25.91 meters of frontage. So given the size of the lot, the dwelling, the proposed garage will meet the intent of the zoning bylaw for an accessory building to be subordinate and incidental. The use of the garage is incidental to the dwelling, that being a garage, storage, and a rec room. There is no proposal for a kitchen or bathrooms, or for it to be lived in, or for residential habitable space in the building. People do use often their garages for a ping pong table or other similar games that you play in a rec room stuff. And it's just so that because there's just more area for you to play the game in. It's kind of a fine line as to whether or not it would be considered human habitation. So it's not actually livable. And there's only going to be hydro in the garage. However, the Shaps understand the township's concerns and are prepared to accept the planning staff's recommendation for the dormer to be removed. We'd like to thank Rosalind for all her time with reviewing the proposal, and she's been a great help. And we would appreciate it if the committee would consider granting the garage with the loft. I'm open to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. So for clarity, Marie, they have read the report. They prefer their option.
Yes.
But so basically they're asking us not to approve the initial staff recommendation of not approving the minor variance at all. They would rather move forward with something rather than nothing if it came to that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'd just like to move to Rosalind just before we get to members of committee. Just we've read your report and so on, but if you could just clarify once again your position with your not really a recommendation, but what staff support and what that difference is. The dormer, a little bit of upper square footage, correct?
Correct. So thank you very much, Sean, Chair. So tonight for this application, I think staff recognize that the development in this part of town has actually increased significantly around the Shap property. And in fact, the lot right behind will have a house on it at some point. So the house that's actually being constructed is not the end. So to the west, there's actually a vacant lot there. That is something that staff had to take into consideration as those residents are absent. So we had to put ourselves in that person's shoes. We also had to put ourselves in the Shap shoes and recognize that, you know, they would also be impacted potentially by a new building being built there. That is why we looked at the height of the building and said, you know, maybe that is something we could consider as a way to buffer some of the use to the west. However, when the application was submitted to permit a recreation room, staff had to look at that and say, this to us was meant to be a garage. And for us right now in the township, we're getting a lot of pressure for, say, second dwellings in detached structures. And it's not to say that at some point in the future, we wouldn't look at that, but we're not looking at that today. And council hasn't considered any sort of policies or tests for that type of use. For us, an accessory garage is meant for storage. It's meant for cars. It's meant for things that you maybe couldn't put in, like if you didn't have a garage, that's where you would put them. And so in this case, for us to allow for some extended recreational room, it really didn't meet the intent of the zoning bylaw from our perspective. In addition, when I was at the site, there is a lot of recreational space already on that site. There's a nice big pool, there's some larger decks. And I get that you can't use that in the winter. However, again, keeping in mind that there is going to be some added development around this property and that other lots will also potentially look to build a detached accessory building. We had to, you know, consider what we really felt the intent of the bylaw was for accessory structures. And in our mind, it is meant for storage. And we didn't want to put the hardship on the Shaps to not have a second level or an ability to have some storage above there. Because again, that's what we do feel an accessory structure is for currently in this zone. So that's why, while I couldn't support it with the dormer, and the dormer just for committees and for others, there was a bit of a bump out to the east. It wasn't on both sides of the structure, but it did sort of change the shape of the way that the roof line would look. And in my mind, the lots along Quebec are smaller, therefore they're not going to have the ability to have the same kind of roof line or same kind of accessory structure. And then again, this is also a different orientation. So the accessory structure is in the back, but it's actually facing out on Quebec Street. So in this case, the shops were lucky. They've got a corner lot and they've got accessibility to Quebec Street. If this had been a brand new lot, there wouldn't be accessible driveway here. There would only, the bylaw really only allows 2 entrances onto a lot. And we recognize that there's an existing sort of established front entrance for a drive and Quebec Street entrance. So we didn't make a condition that one of them be removed. However, again, that is maybe the benefit of having been there first and established, you know, a use. So in that case, we did sort of look at removing that dormer because it did look like it would change sort of the look on Quebec Street as you would drive down. So its roof line would actually change, as opposed to being sort of a peaked roof. It would have a little bit of a bump out. And we felt that that looked a little bit unusual for a detached garage. And so in conclusion, planning staff felt that the supporting the height variation requested, as well as allowing some usable space in the second floor, would meet the intent and purposes and meet the 4 tests of the minor variance.
Thank you for that explanation. Dave, you wanted to start us?
I guess just a couple of comments. And I know that you've already said this, Marie, but I want to hear it the 3rd time. So no plumbing, no bathroom, no kitchen, other than electricity. Those are the only services going into the building, to the best of your knowledge, as of right here, right now, on
Yes.
June the 9th. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. No, the
Okay.
shops are saying that they don't want it. They're not proposing to even have a bathroom or anything in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just hydro.
Thank you, because that is my main concern, and I know I'm echoing Rosalind right now, and it's that grandfather or grandmother or grandparent little home, or you put your teenager in there for a couple of years while they try to establish themselves, and the 30 square meters actually is quite a nice size habitable area, maybe not to a family, but certainly there's a lot of smaller homes now, and obviously in Toronto, and apartments are substantially smaller than 30 square meters. So that was my big concern. When I took the tour the other day, we drive by the places to take a look at them. And this is prior to reading your report. I really was struck by the difference in topography. You don't think about it, but I traveled down Quebec Street heading to the east, and I could clearly see the new homes that are being built. And the one that you were talking about, the vacant lot in between, there actually is it looks like they're beginning the footings on it.
Oh.
And clearly there is a topographic elevation difference, and it almost looks like the upper deck of the home, it seems to be equivalent to that. That's what it looks like. Obviously, there's more than 1.7 meters there.
Yeah.
So I personally, I have a lot less difficulty with the 6.22 meters. And I know, Rosalind, that you actually support the 6.22 meters. It was the dormer. I think that's my comments, Mr. Chair. Again, main concern is that this not turn into a precedent of some sort of future habitable space for a grandma, a grandfather, a son, a daughter, a neighbor, a renter.
Yeah. Understandable. Thank you.
Chuck?
My questions to staff, to Rosalind. So the township has allowed the development of Quebec Street to be significantly higher than the shop's current elevation. And they've been there 40 years and watched this large above ground, above elevation development ongoing for the last couple of years. And we're worried about a dormer.
I think that's rhetorical. Or were you looking for an answer?
I was actually looking for an answer. I understand. I listened to Rosalind's presentation, but looking at the height differentials in that neighborhood, a dormer on the outside of a roof line really would seem inconsequential to the development that's ongoing.
Thank you, Chuck. I think that I agree with the height, and so I think more it's about the usability of that space for me and less about the height. It's the fact that they're going to be doing a different type of use there that we wouldn't normally consider in a recreational space is generally not in a garage. So I don't disagree that, but the other thing is they've also been there throughout all of this development and never objected. So as far as I know, so, you know, I think what we're trying to do is do what planning does, which is try to prevent land use conflicts. And so in my mind, allowing for that 6.22 meter height in that garage is allowing a little bit of buffering to their space that they've established. And but it's also getting rid of that dormer allows for us to sort of keep a hold on what the intent of that use is in that upper floor. And the use is really for storage.
And I fully agree with the condition of the second floor being to be used for storage. My question was over the architecture and the dormer, leaving the condition in that it be used for storage. I had no issues with, and the size I got no issue with. But when I look at the style of the development that's ongoing versus a garage with a dormer, in architecturally, I didn't see where the objection was, and so thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I think the dormer adds roughly 18 square meters of usable floor space into that second story and expands their recreational opportunities, if you will. So I'll move to Dan.
I guess my question is, Rosalind, is with the upper storage area, regardless of whether it's got the dormer to it or not, is there a way that we can make a request that the interior of that upper area never be insulated and heated? Because that will kind of control the fact of whether it becomes a usable, rentable space or not.
Thank you, Dan, for the question. Well, I guess I would hesitate to not allow them to insulate because I don't know what they're storing in there. So, and I mean, again, that kind of falls under the building code a little bit and out of my realm. I think by simply trying to limit the space, and just so that you're aware, there is already a bylaw that in place that says you can't habitate a detached structure. So it would, if there was someone living up there at some point, then, you know, that would fall to a bylaw enforcement sort of issue, as opposed to trying to, you know, sort of limit. I understand what you're trying to do is, you know, try to make it so that it's not a nice place to be in terms of weather or whatever. But I don't think we want to compromise the integrity of the building either. So I think limiting the space by taking the dormer out is really the best way to kind of give them their privacy as well as some area for storage.
Thanks.
Anything further, Dan?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when I looked at this property and read the report, which I did this afternoon, I looked at the property, I leaned towards the staff's recommendation. But I will say that Ms. LaRue presented a very good case. And I find myself betwixt and between because I got two very competent people in front of me, both of whom I've worked for and have a lot of respect for, both of you. But at the end of the day, I have to look at, and I find that we have to stop making a decision on whether we're going to allow or permit something based on the fact that somebody might use it for something that's not allowed. I mean, it's like saying, well, I can't sell you a gun because you might go shoot somebody. So we can't allow this. We can't allow this expansion because you might try to rent it out to somebody, or you might try to let somebody live up there. And I find that is not grounds to reject an application because it might be used. I mean, we'll clearly state in the application that it's for storage only. And I mean, what people do with their garage and the garage space, quite frankly, is up to them. Whether they throw a ping pong table in there, and you know, and I understand where we're coming from, but basing it on, well, we're not going to allow the dormer, we're not going to allow this because then you won't be able to use it for use other than what it's, you know, I have a problem rejecting an application because we're going to say, well, we're not going to allow it because you might be breaking the rules in the future. I don't find that's grounds to refuse an application.
All right, thank you, Barry. Any other comments or questions from members of committee? I guess my only comment on this property is, and Rosalind touched on it as well, that their backyard is a very social-oriented space. The applicants have a very large family with their sons and their grandchildren and so on, and I'm sure that their intent here was to have a recreational facility that overlooked the pool in the backyard and where the kids could go play billiards or ping pong or just get out of the house for a little while to allow the adults a little bit of quieter time. But I can also understand where Rosalind's coming from as far as built form. I do have a question of staff. We know that there is the foundation hole has been dug for the house immediately to the west. I believe that a permit was pulled for that lot a number of months ago. Do we know what the size of that structure is going to be? Like, is it going to be a one-story house like the lot that's under construction to the west of that, or were they building a two-story home on that lot? Do we know? Christine?
I can speak to that only because I do the zoning review for our building permit applications. It is a two-story dwelling that's proposed on that vacant lot to the west.
So there's an answer to your scale and scope within the neighborhood. So we have a staff report with a staff recommendation to not approve the minor variance. However, we also have a second supplementary recommendation from the staff with conditions that could support the minor variance. Mr. Burt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to make an amendment to the recommendation and take out the word not where it says to approve the minor variance as applied for. And then have a vote on the, on that change and see where we go from there.
So the motion on the floor is to approve the minor variance as applied for file 21A16, which, just to be clear, is the 104 square meters of usable space within the structure at 6.22 meters in height. So do we have a seconder? We do have a seconder from Chuck. Do we have any further comments? Seeing none, then I will call the vote on the motion by Member Burton to approve the minor variance as originally applied for. All in favor? Opposed? It is carried. So
Thank you very much.
the Committee of Adjustments of the Township of Clearview hereby approve minor variance file 21A16 containing lots 203 Sutherland Street South and Stainer as originally applied for. I'd like to thank Rosalind and Marie for your work and efforts on this, and as well members of committee for your thought process as we go forward. As you're aware, there's a 20-day appeal period.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move forward to our next file, and I see Ms. Robinson is on the program here. Minor variance file 21A17, property located at 7572 County Road 9. Christine, if you could please provide the legals.
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 7572 County Road 9. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the residential low density zone interior side yard setback requirement of 1.5 meters to 0.86 meters. The effect of the application is to allow for the construction of an addition, garage, and mudroom to the existing dwelling located on the subject lands. There were no comments received for the application. We have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 21A17 pertaining to lands at 7572 County Road 9, Clearview, and legally described as Concession 4, Part Lot 10, on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act, subject to the following condition: that the requested variance shall not apply to any development on the subject lands exceeding 1 story in height. And that is all I have.
Sorry, bad internet connection, so I try to minimize my footprint here before, and I forget. So Nick, if you could just clarify the condition that the variance shall not apply to any development of lands exceeding 1 story in height.
Yes, absolutely. So the intent would being that the variance would apply for the current addition to the house. However, if the applicant came forward in the future to put a 2nd story on the dwelling, that they would have to come and apply for an additional variance for us to review the increased height, having that close to the variance. But for what is currently proposed, the 1-story addition, municipal staff are supportive.
Very good. Ms. Robinson, do you have anything to add to the application or the conversation this evening?
No, I mean, he said it should go ahead, so I'm all with Nick.
Okay. You read people well, so when it looks like it's going your way, you just sit back. So great. Any members of committee have any questions of staff? Dave, you're muted. You're muted, Dave.
First of all, Nicole, I'm going to support this application because I think it's wonderful. But when I did the site visit, I noticed on the east side you had a fence and there's some mature trees in there. This is right by your parking. And I noticed on Nick's map in his report that you've basically got 3 feet on the west of you. So as I say, I'm going to support your application, but my dumb question of the day is, what happens if you need to bring a small backhoe into your backyard? How are you going to get it into the backyard?
So interestingly enough, my dad asked me the same question yesterday. We were talking about it, and for now we're going to go with the plan of having the small door at the back of the garage, but in the future we would replace that with a garage door so we could drive right through the garage if need be.
The other thing I noticed too, though, Nicole, is that the neighbor to the west of you, immediately to the west of you, actually is set way back, and actually the front part of their lawn almost looks like a field. I would imagine if you went over nicely and said we need to bring in an outdoor pool table or something like that that's longer than 5 feet. Anyways, I apologize. I've been known to ask dumb questions, and as I said, you got my support. So
that house just sold. So once the new owners move in, I'll bring over some cookies and make nice. So
fair enough.
Dan.
Just so you know, Dave and Nicole, if you need to get an excavator into a backyard, I have one that's only 36 inches wide, and they'll do a 7-foot digging depth, and it does a wonderful job. So we got you covered.
Thanks, Dan.
Any Chuck or Barry, any comments? All right, so we do have a recommendation from staff. Do we have someone to move that recommendation? Moved by Chuck, seconded by Dave. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. So the Committee of Adjustments Township Clearby hereby approves minor variance 21A17 pertaining to lots that's lands at 7572 County Road 9 in Clearview. So there is a 20-day appeal period, Nicole, and then you can get moving.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. We move on to our next application, which is a consent file 21B05. And is Ms. Loft presenting the Dunlops? Yes? All right, so I see she's here. Christine, notice?
Good evening. Good evening. So my name is Christine. Oh,
sorry, Christine. Yes, other Christine.
Wrong Christine.
Right. We gotta go through the. Yeah, we gotta go through the formalities here. So, yes, Christine Taggart.
The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 8077 and 8073 Highway 26. The purpose of the application is to sever a parcel of land from 8077 Highway 26 to be added to the abutting parcel at 8073 Highway 26. The proposed sub-parcel has no frontage, a width of approximately 53 meters, and a depth of 195 meters overall, 1 hectares, 2.5 acres, with self-storage building. The retained lot, 8077 Highway 26, 93 meters of frontage on Highway 26, overall 30.8 hectares, vacant land. The receiving lands, 8073 Highway 26, will have 53 meters of frontage on Highway 26, overall 1.4 hectares with dwelling, self-storage building. We did receive comments from the County of Simcoe, Hydro One, Ministry of Transportation and Public Works having no objection or concern with the application. And I have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 21B05 pertaining to lands at 8073 and 8077 Highway 26, formerly Nottawasaga, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the land, which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that any mortgage on the property be discharged from any lands being severed, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that his condition will be fulfilled. 4, that the applicant successfully apply to the municipality to amend the zoning bylaw on the lands 8073 and 8077 Highway 26. 5, that the applicant successfully apply to the Clearview Public Works Department to obtain a farm entrance for farm vehicles from 3031 Side Road for seasonal access. 6, that the property be severed is conveyed to 8073 Highway 26, as well into the same name as the owner of abutting land to the east, being assessed as roll number 4329-010-002-019502, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled, as well as merging the PIN numbers to have only one PIN number for the new parcel. 7, that a 1 foot square from the land being added to, described as 8073 Highway 26, be taken from the property to allow the severed land to be merged. This 1 foot conveyance can be added to 8077 Highway 26, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled. Once the 1 foot square is conveyed, he can then merge the PIN numbers to have the same PIN number at 8077 Highway 26. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much. You're up, Mrs. Loft.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Through the
trouble.
chair to committee. I think the only thing I have to add is that the owner of 8073, so the small 0.4 parcel at the front, they own the smart storage business. So this would actually allow them to now own the lands and the building and actually attach this parcel of land to their home at 8073 as an amalgamated parcel. And we're fine with the conditions, the zoning bylaw amendment. We've had the public meeting, and so it's underway. And we would agree with the other conditions that are provided for in the report. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Through to Rosalind, just a question of clarification. Condition 5 is that they apply for a seasonal access or a farm access off of 3031. But do the Dunlops not own the abutting property to the south? Do they have to get an access if they can access it from their own field?
Well, thank you, Sean, for the question. I believe that the farm to the south, while it may be in the same family operation, I don't know how it's, it may be that it is accessible that way. However, staff weren't at liberty to judge that. So in discussions with the Deputy Director of Public Works, I did ask if, there was to be a farm vehicle using that road allowance, if we would prefer to have a formalized entrance, and he did agree that he would prefer to have a formalized entrance. And because we're not merging the lands with the property to the south, there's always that question that land could be conveyed to someone else, and then there would be no access. So I think staff would still like to have some formalized access to that property in the form of a farm access. Is that?
Thank you. Yep. Members of committee, does anyone have any questions with respect to this consent boundary adjustment? Member Burton? Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is to Ms. Loft. And I heard you say you're fine with the conditions. I just want to confirm there's some pretty lengthy conditions here. So and I'm sure you do. I just want to hear it again, that you on behalf of your client, you totally understand all those conditions and accept them.
Yes, that's fine. I think there's just some survey work to be done with the 1 square foot. So they're all fairly standard conditions. And just to add, so the adjacent parcel is owned by the family, but is in, I think, Mr. Dunlop's name, Mr. Dunlop Senior. So it is held in a different name. So we're fine with that, and we're fine with getting the entrance permit. So yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Then any further comments from the committee? I'd call for a motion then. Moving the staff recommendation. Dave, seconded by Dan. Anything further? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? So that is approved. The Committee of Adjustment of Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 21B05 pertaining to lots at 8073 and 8077 Highway 26. Thank you very much. All right. And our final applications tonight, 2 consent files, 21B06 and 21B07, properties at 1918 Concession 8 South. And is anybody?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Very
Anybody
good.
else? Christine?
Great.
Taggart?
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands.
Oh, are you back?
Yep. Can you hear me, Sean?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. No, everybody froze for a few moments there. So
The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 90B South Road, 1918 and 1930 Concession 8 South. The purpose of the application is to sever a portion of lands from 90B South Road and 1918 Concession 8 South to be added to 1930 Concession 8 South. An application for an access easement block of 15 meters by 50 meters over a stream crossing is also being considered. Proposed severed parcel, 75 meters of frontage, overall 12.77 hectares, vacant land. Retained parcel, approximately 149 meters of frontage, overall 16.15 hectares with dwelling. The receiving lands, 1930 Concession 8 South, will have a resulting 151 meters of frontage on Concession 8 South, overall 13.7 hectares with dwelling. We did receive comments from the Niagara Escarpment Commission, as well as the Hydro One and the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, having no objection to the application. I did have a request from the agent to read out correspondence that was provided to the NEC. I did circulate that information to committee members today. I'm not sure if you all had an opportunity to read it prior to the meeting, but I'm happy to read that aloud right now prior to reading the recommendation. So this was written to Judy Rhodes-Monk at the Niagara Escarpment Commission from the township. Thank you for circulating this application to the Township of Clearview for comment. Staff have reviewed the above noted application with respect to the development and submit the following comments. The application is to reconfigure 2 existing lots through severance and lot addition and establish a 15 meter by 5 meter easement block at the stream culvert crossing on Lot A in favor of reconfigured Lot B to facilitate continued access to farmlands. The existing and proposed lot sizes are described below. No new development or site alteration is proposed. Each lot contains a dwelling and accessory building. Existing Lot A, lot area approximately 28.92 hectares. Existing Lot B, lot area approximately 0.93 hectares. Lands to be severed from Lot A and added to Lot B, lot area approximately 12.77 hectares. Proposed reconfigured Lot A, lot area approximately 16.15 hectares. Proposed reconfigured Lot B, lot area approximately 13.7 hectares. The property is designated escarpment protected area. The applicants will be required to apply for the proposed lot addition, consent, and easement applications to the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Clearview. Something to consider. An additional easement could also be applied for at the western edge of the property, as it looks like the proposed lot line might intersect with the existing driveway on the property known as reconfigured Lot A. Should access from the proposed reconfigured Lot B through the Devil's Glen Ski Club be sought in the future, it might be easier and less disruptive to the slope environment to use the existing driveway located on reconfigured Lot A. If access is sought, approvals may be needed and additional easements from the Devil's Glen Ski Club. The roads located in the ski club are owned and operated by the condo corporations within the club. The proposed reconfigured Lot B is not part of the condo corporation. Legal access over these roads located in Devil's Glen may be required. We understand at this time no building development is proposed, but we note that at some point in the existing house located at the eastern property line could be demolished and a new house built elsewhere on the property. The township has the following conditions to add to the development permit. 1, the applicant applies to the Township of Clearview Committee of Adjustment for a consent lot addition application. 2, the applicant applies to the Township of Clearview Committee of Adjustment for at least 1 easement and possibly more if access over the condominium roads and Devil's Glen Ski Club is needed. And 3, the applicant is required to obtain a permit from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority if required. We would appreciate receiving a copy of the Commission's decision regarding this file. And I have the recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 21B06 lot addition pertaining to lands at 90B South Road, 1918 and 1930 Concession 8 South, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 8 North Part Lot 17, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the land, which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that the mortgage on the property be discharged from any lands being severed, and the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled. 4, that the applicant successfully applied to revise the approved development permit, Niagara Escarpment Development Permit number 11965/S/R/2019-2020/9187, dated February 21, 2021, to reflect the recommendations to remove the 13.9 meter wide access to the South Road and straighten the rear property line to extend to be approximately 151.4 meters, which is the entire width of the newly created lot. 5, that the applicant successfully applied to revise the approved development permit, Niagara Escarpment Development Permit number 119565/SR/2019-2020-9187, dated February 21st, 2021, to reflect the recommendations to ensure there is an approved building envelope to be located at the location of the existing Lot B, which will be maximum of 1 hectare. 6, the property known as 1918 Concession 8 South be merged, including the merging of PIN numbers with the property known as 1930 Concession 8 South. 7, that a 1 foot square from Lot B, 1930 Concession 8 South, is conveyed to the Township Clearview. The Township of Clearview road allowance to facilitate the merging of the lands 1918 Concession 8 South, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking writing that this condition will be fulfilled, as well as merging the PIN numbers to have only 1 PIN number for the new reconfigured parcel should it be required. 8, that the conditions of 21B07 easement must be fulfilled once the conditions of 21B06 lot addition are completed. And further, approves consent 21B07 easement pertaining to lands at 90B South Road, 1918 and 1930 Concession 8 South, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 8 North Part Lot 17, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the lands which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that the solicitor provide an undertaking confirming that the easement, which will be a 15 meter by 50 meter square, will be registered in favor of allowing access for the owners of the newly created Lot B, which is the lands located to the south of the lands that will be conveying the easement. That easement will allow the use of the driveway to access South Road. 4, that the conditions of 21B06 lot addition must be fulfilled prior to the conditions of 21B07 easement being completed. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and members of township staff. My name is Gord Russell. I'm a land use planner, and I'm acting on behalf of the owners, Anthony Uras Nikira and Doug Warwick. They own 2 properties. One is a large property, one is a smaller property. The larger property is approximately 28.9 hectares or 71 acres. Lot B, the smaller one, is 0.93 of a hectare and approximately 2.3 hectares or 3 acres, 2.3 acres. On each of the lots, there is a single detached dwelling. One is fronting onto Concession Road 8, and the second one, although it fronts onto Concession Road 8, the dwelling is accessed by South Road B. So 90 South Road B is the address, and South Road is the private laneway through the Devil's Glen Ski Club. The applicants want to transfer part of Lot A to Lot B and basically make the two lots reasonably similar in size. The lands are within the Niagara Escarpment Development Control Area. Those lands are controlled under a provincial act called the Niagara Escarpment Planning and Development Act. And that act is administered by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And the authority to issue development permits is the responsibility of the Niagara Escarpment Commission. So that act dictates that the Niagara Escarpment has to be approached with a development application, a development permit application first, before any upper tier such as the county or lower tier such as the municipalities, any approvals are given. And that is what we did. We approached the Niagara Escarpment and advised them that we would like to submit a development permit application to sever and merge a portion of Lot A to Lot B. And the instructions from the Niagara Escarpment planning staff was to contact three agencies: the County of Simcoe planning staff, the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and the Township of Clearview Planning Authority, or planning staff. And we did that. We met with Judy Rhodes Monk first. We got those directions, and then we met with the Township of Clearview and reviewed the applications and identified a number of issues that would have to be addressed as part of the submission. One of which was to ensure that the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority would review the lands, and whatever conditions they requested would have to be undertaken and confirmed to their satisfaction prior to the submission. So we did this in 2019. And so the initial meeting with the Clearview Township planning staff was July 17th, 2019. And then, or July 31st. And then we met with the NVCA in August 2019. And then we met with the county in September of 2019. And based on that direction and discussion, we undertook what is a natural heritage review, specifically scoped to an environmental impact report. We undertook that with Azimuth Environmental, and they completed the report, forwarded it to the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and the conclusion of that was that there was no environmental impact based on this land severance. But the one issue that came up was that there is an existing creek bisecting the property in a north-south direction. It had one field crossing, a creek crossing, that was sufficient to handle farm machinery. And the recommendation from the report was that that creek crossing would be the only creek crossing as part of the severance application, which mandated the need for a easement to go on to the resulting lot of Lot A and then back onto Lot B, over the creek crossing. And that was acceptable to the Conservation Authority, and that is why that there's an easement together with this consent application for a lot addition. So we submitted the application for the NEC in February of 2020, and we received its approval a year and about a month later in 2021, February 26, 2021. And we have that development permit for your review. So the requirement for the county official plan and the township official plan is that we need to get the development permit first, and then top down that's the direction from the province, that's the direction from the county, and that's the township direction. Get your development permit first, then come to the committee of adjustment for the land division. And we've done that. And it has taken quite a significant amount of time and money and effort to get the applications before you. We are now before you, and we have a recommendation from staff to support the application. And quite frankly, that's the correct recommendation, and I applaud the planning staff to coming to that recommendation and the conditions that are associated with that. We now have a problem with conditions 4 and 5 of the first application, and possibly condition number 3, I believe, of the second with regards to the easement. But I'd like to address number 4 and 5 of the first consent application, which is the lot addition. 4 and 5 are asking planning staff are asking you to approve a condition of this consent that would require us to go back to the Niagara Escarpment and revise the application. We can't do that. We can submit a new application and start the whole process over again. But we can't ask you to approve this with these conditions, because that would be in conflict of the development permit that the Niagara Escarpment Commission issued. So that aside, the rationale behind these two conditions is one that maybe in the future, the applicants will want to demolish the existing building that's on the small lot and have a better location selected for a new dwelling on a larger lot. If that is the case, should that happen, a development permit would actually have to be submitted to the Niagara Escarpment for the placement of a new dwelling, and that building envelope would be established with accessory buildings. All those buildings would need to have new building plans designed and submitted at the time of the application. Secondly, the owners of the properties are members of the Devil's Glen Ski Club. They presently enjoy access to the private lane known as South Road, which traverses the entire ski club property out to the county road. And that's how they get their primary access. Even though their legal access is on to Concession Road 8, their functional access is through the ski club, because they are members of the ski club. So they have the right to go through the ski club, and they've been given a annual license, if you will, a driveway license to utilize it for personal access to their dwelling. And that is what they would like to achieve sometime in the future. And that is why you have a small driveway width accessing onto the South Road in the event that they wish to utilize either by way of pedestrian access or vehicle access to South Road. The applications are good applications. They conform to the county's official plan and township zoning, township official plan, the county official plan, and represent appropriate development. What I would ask is that you strike condition number 4 and 5, because we cannot meet that. If you approve this application the way it is with those conditions, the application fails because it does not comply to the development permit from the Niagara Escarpment. And we start again. And in a year's time or a year and a half time, we'll be back here asking you for the same application. So I would ask you not to do that. When we come forward with a Niagara Escarpment development permit, the township planning staff will have that right to comment, as they did back in March of 2020, when we initially contacted them with regards to the development proposal. If they wish to have a identified building envelope, and be it 1 hectare in size, is fairly large, identified, then they can comment to that. But that is for a new build. We are not proposing any build at all as part of this application. We are asking just to make the two lots similar in size. And the easement is just from a functional point of view to ensure farm equipment can get to the fields of both properties across the creek. So I would ask the committee to seriously consider removing conditions 4 and 5. And as far as the easement condition, I don't really understand condition number 3, the last line of it, and perhaps I'd ask for clarification of that so I understand it before I ask the committee to reconsider that. So the last line on condition number 3 with regards to the easement, it states that the easement will allow the use of the driveway to access South Road. The proposed easement is in the middle of the property. It's a farm machinery easement over the existing laneway and the associated existing creek crossing. It's got nothing to do with South Road. So the condition can stand, but South Road would be the wording that I would ask change to perhaps westerly fields. So driveway access to the westerly fields. So, and that's our presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with Member Burton. Barry?
The question is to staff. Rosalind, just so I understand, and of course, just so the applicants understand, I am a commissioner on the Niagara Escarpment Commission representing the County of Simcoe, and I sit through these hearings every month. So, and our chair is a past member of the Niagara Escarpment Commission, so he has a good understanding of it as well. My question to Rosalind is, so an application was made to the NEC, and it was, and the development permit was granted. But that permit that's granted, is it different than what we are being asked to submit or to approve in this? Because if it is different, then I cannot support removing 4 and 5. If it's the same, then that might be a different story.
Rosalind?
Thank you. So just so I understand, you want to understand what the current development permit is?
Yes. Well, what is the difference between the permit that the Niagara Escarpment has already approved, and then it says in item number 5 to revise the approved development permit? So what's the difference? What's happening? What is the difference between what was already approved and what you're saying in number 4 and 5 that it has to be revised? So it sounds like to me that this application for this severance is different than what was applied to the Niagara Escarpment Commission.
So what's different is that in this case, what staff's looking for, fundamentally, the application is as it is applied for. Other than we are looking to solidify the 1 hectare parcel at the frontage that has frontage on County Road or Concession 8. And we're also looking to kind of remove that 13.9 meter butt out that will lead or have frontage on South Road. And so if I can, I know Gord had asked me to help him with showing a drawing, and I think that might be helpful in this case. So if I can just share my screen. So do you see that drawing? It's going to be hard because it's a fairly large parcel, but so this was what Judy, this is part of the development permit that was approved. And what we're asking is that there's a little jut out here. And all we're saying is take this line and draw it straight. And we're just saying, formalize this 1.1 hectare parcel down here in an envelope, like as a building envelope. And to Gord's point, it will require a change to the conditions or a new permit. I did converse with Judy on that, and she advised that you would have to apply probably for a new permit, but it wouldn't have to go back to the board, that staff could look at that. And I guess the reasoning behind staff's looking at this is that, you know, fundamentally this is farmland, and we've had a lot of pressure on farmland and the creation of residential lots and residential uses. And under the provincial policy statement, you know, we do farm consolidations all the time. We sever off residential homes. I mean, I think the staff report suggested that this is actually helping in some ways because it's going to get rid of one of those receptors. But the other thing that we worry about is that, you know, sometime in the future, this land may not always be in the ownership of the current owners. And we worry, you know, that there will be someone that wants to do something similar to what happened on the property to the north, and they will want to build a house there and not build it down on Concession 8. I think, you know, you can see it's called alfalfa field there on this drawing, and you know, part of one of staff's goals as professional planners is to try to maintain the provincial policy statement, and that's really all we're doing. If this wasn't in the Niagara Escarpment, we would probably have recommended a zoning envelope that would have recognized where that house would go, and so that if future owners were to purchase this, that we would know exactly where that house would lay and farming would continue on the property. So to answer your question, it's different in that conditions 4 and 5 of this consent are asking that they go back and change the development permit. And to answer Gord's question about the item number 3 for the easement, I guess the reason for that was that, you know, an easement can be all encompassing. And it's not just about drawing a box and having access over that box. It's about writing words into that easement. And my thought was that while you were potentially getting rid of that access to the South Road, an overall easement to allow access to that driveway on the newly created Lot A could be done at the same time.
So Rosalind, could you show with your cursor where you're speaking of?
Yeah.
So
this, oh, sorry.
The primary easement is up in the center, right? Detail view 2.
Yeah.
So where are you proposing easement number 2?
Well, it would be wording that would provide access over this driveway. So I mean, obviously, whoever's here is going to access this creek. They're going to have a little ATV or whatever, farm tractor, whatever, and they're going to be able to cross here and get over onto this land, but they're going to get over here. I don't see why they couldn't also get access to, you know, the driveway in order to get to the club or whatever.
Okay. The second question I have for clarity is the township was circulated by the NEC at the time of the application for the development permit over a year ago. Are any of the things that you're requesting now different from what the municipality requested of the NEC prior to them issuing the current development permits? Or are you asking for the same thing we asked for in March of 2020 that the NEC didn't give us, we're asking them for it again, I think is where I'm getting at.
Oh,
Or is this just all new, come to light after the development permit has been finalized?
well, I think in all fairness, what came to light was the building envelope is new. I don't think that we requested anything in that development permit. And I think what I was trying to do was to reinforce also the NEC policies, which actually say that you can't actually do this type of application unless there is no new building envelope being created. So I take it that that is why Lot B is staying the way it is. But again, because I don't work under the NEC policies, I work under the Township of Clearview policies. And how we would typically do this is we would zone a building envelope. And so, you know, maybe I just didn't understand at the time. I think, you know, I may have alluded to the fact that there may be an opportunity to have a house there. I mean, there being up in this quadrant of the newly created Lot B. But I didn't request at the time that there be a building envelope outlined. The one thing I did allude to was an easement to the west. And I don't know whether this access here, the 13.9 meters is what they came to, or whether that was something the NEC required. But I guess what I recognize, and if you were out doing a site inspection, I mean, I went out and I saw that there's quite a bit of, you know, there's a good infrastructure there, so that if there was to be another house here, there would be no need to maybe create more infrastructure. There's a good road there, and potentially you could use that. And I think when staff make comments on those development permits, they're in generalities, because again, we work with zoning bylaws and kind of laws, and it's difficult sometimes to, you know, convey back to the NEC how, you know, we would like to see things done. So
in summary, that little notch of land that you want them to eliminate and put back to Lot A is probably exactly what they're thinking, is that would be a future access point to that alfalfa field to relocate a home. But again, there's no proposal to relocate the home, and I realize that it's your job to think 20, 30, 50 years out. But there is no process, having been a 10-year Niagara Escarpment commissioner, there is no process to amend a development permit. It would be a new process. And as I understand it, this permit, or these permits, were approved through the directors, but it still took a year. So this would again be another at least 9 months if they were to make new application because they still have to circulate it to everybody, even if they don't require as extensive reporting. But anyway, that's just my comments. So thank you for clarifying that. So in your opinion, just in summary, there are new things that you would like to see happen to this development permit that were not contemplated 18 months ago or 14 months ago when the NEC circulated us, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Member Burton, you had some questions?
Yeah, so thank you, Rosalind, for that. I can see how this becomes a little complex and and you know the file well. I'm going to ask you a yes and no question. Would you recommend removing conditions 4 and 5?
Well, I haven't. So my recommendation is in my planning report. So no.
Yes. So yeah. Okay. And that's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that. So. Okay. Well, my comment is I'm prepared to support the application as it stands. I am not prepared to remove condition 4 and 5 because I know what'll happen. And you know this too, Sean. You know what's going to happen. They're going to do something. Then all of a sudden, there's going to be a non-compliance thing filed against the applicant because they didn't comply with what didn't comply with what the permit says, and then it's going to be, I know it's a pain to have to go back. It'll be a bigger pain if it's not done now. Trust me, because I see these all the time at the commission. So I know it's a pain.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen? I know it's a bit of a hard thing to look at.
Yeah. So just a moment. I just want to ask other members of committee, Dave, Chuck, and Dan, any comments on the diagram that's being shared before we go back to full screen? Chuck?
I don't think I have any. I think I got a good understanding there. So, all right, I'm good. I got it.
You got it. Okay. So yes, Rosalind, unshare your screen. All right, and Mr. Russell, I'd like you to weigh in if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that screen was the approved site plan for the permit. We submitted an identical application for consent matching that development permit that was approved. Number one, there's no variation to our application for consent to the approved development permit. Number two is that little, call it tail of land accessing onto South Road splits the 6-meter wide driveway in half, allowing both parcels to have 3 meters. No new driveway at the request of the ski club was being achieved. They wanted to utilize the existing driveway for access. That way it would not disrupt the existing members in the ski club. So that's number two. If these conditions are put forward as 4 and 5, as they sit, understanding that the Niagara Escarpment Act requires top-down, we cannot achieve these conditions within that time period of 1 year. The Niagara Escarpment permit is 3 years, but the conditions of consent are only 1 year. We have spent over $25,000 trying to achieve this application. Probably closer to 35 if you include the environmental review. We have no choice but to appeal it to the tribunal. No choice at all, because this is contrary to the county official plan and the township's official plan, and contrary to the Niagara Escarpment. I can assure you, I do not want this to happen with these conditions incorporated. I would much rather this application be approved without those conditions. And I implore you, all of you, to consider the options that you're providing if you do approve it with these conditions. I'm not threatening at all. The staff have been excellent to work with. The Niagara Escarpment's been great. The Conservation Authority, the county, and the municipal staff. Don't get me wrong, but these are contrary to the planning documents. The stipulation that any consent that is approved has to be in compliance with, not in conflict with, the Niagara Escarpment development permit as issued. The applications for consent and the development permit that was approved are identical. And that is why I'm asking you to consider our application as we applied for. These are suggesting things that we might do in the future. And if we do them in the future, they will be under a new development application to the Niagara Escarpment. And once again, the township will have a chance to communicate that. We will meet with them once again in advance of the submission of that application, and we will understand what their direction is. We received no direction based on these two conditions in that communication, either to ourselves or to the Niagara Escarpment before they approved it. And that's why I had those comments read by your Secretary Treasurer. Thank you very much.
Member Burton?
Okay, I'm hearing two conflicting stories. I'm hearing from Mr. Russell that the application for the severance meets exactly the same as the permit that was provided by the NEC. I'm hearing from Ms. Roslin that it is not. So I'm
No, I disagree. What you're hearing from Roslyn is that she would rather have better planning than the development permit that was issued, and is requesting the applicants go back to the Niagara Escarpment Commission to have the permit or a new permit issued with better planning. And Mr. Russell is correct in that typically an applicant goes to the commission, gets their permit, and comes and does the Planning Act requirements through the lower tier municipality. The lower tier municipality in this case is saying what the NEC did is not clean enough for them. They want more. The Niagara Escarpment Development Planning Act does not provide an opportunity for amendments. It's a whole new application. So that's, as a committee, where we're in a conundrum. Support our staff, throw it back to the commission. The consent approval probably, maybe not, but probably lapses before the applicant can get it back through the NEC again. Or we support the application without supporting the staff, and perhaps we don't have as good a planning. The other option is we defer this for a month and we get more solid comments from the NEC and communication through our staff and the applicant to see if we can come to some other solution.
I thank you.
Want to say something, Barry?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Chair. And it's, you take the words out of my mouth, because I mean, and I sit on the commission, and I have seen where people have come to revise. It may be a new application, but they have to revise an existing application. I would suggest we defer this and give Mr. Russell an opportunity and our staff to talk with the NEC so we can get this cleared up. Because I think for us to go ahead and support it, taking 4 and 5 out would be a mistake on our part. Although I also appreciate, Mr. Russell's position, that it creates a whole lot of extra headaches, for the applicants. So I'm going to put forth a motion to defer this until, staff and Mr. Russell can meet with the NEC and see if there's a way this can't be sorted out before, instead of forcing us into making a decision tonight.
Chuck?
I support Mr. Burton's motion to defer for 30 days and see what they can work out before we have to make a decision.
I would suggest, Chuck, we don't put a time limit on it of 30 days because it might take a little longer, especially with COVID and everything. Let's just put a deferral on. The condition of the deferral was to when our staff and Mr. Russell could communicate with the NEC and have a conversation. I put that
Understood.
Of the defer rather than putting a time frame on it.
Concur.
I agree with Barry that we better leave it open-ended. Any further comment before we call for the vote on the deferral? Although we're not really supposed to under procedural bylaw, but I don't know if you're frozen or just nobody's got anything to say. I think you're frozen. I will call for the vote then on the deferral. Barry's frozen. Oh, he's a yes. Dan's a yes. All right, so we're deferring this file until we can get some clear communication and comments from all 3 parties. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you back here very, very soon, Mr. Russell, and your clients as well.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay, those are our applications. Is there any new business?
I have no new business.
Meeting Wednesday, July the 14th.
Yes,
We already have applications, I take it?
we have two
So the meeting
so
will
far.
happen.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. All right. Members have anything further?
I have
Seeing
none.
nothing, a motion to adjourn. Everybody. So just pick one, Christine. Thank you very much